Update. My grandmother tried to steal my apartment and make me go back to my parents so she could punish me. I'm 29 and had been dealing with this for some time, but recently this became ridiculous. My grandmother is the most special person I ever knew. And with special, I mean one of the most frustrating, entitled, narcissistic, condescending witch on earth. She believes that she's the matriarch of the family, the highest authority that we all must obey, and for that, she had done a lot of things to all the family members over the years. And recently, I became her main target. A couple months ago, she organized a family meeting on her house. Believing it was just a family meal, we all went. And when everyone was there, she revealed her true intentions. It was a trap. Apparently, someone told my grandmother that I was dating a girl, my girlfriend, and basically she exposed me to all the family. At a time, I haven't even told my parents about it yet. The following 30 minutes were a non-stop humiliation in front of my family, saying how a failure I was, a shame to the family, a sinner, and how embarrassed she was that all her church's friends knew I was a shameless pervert. When I couldn't take her insults anymore, I got up from my chair, just to be slapped in the face by her for disrespecting her. After seeing that, the rest of my family finally intervened, got her away from me before she tried pulling my hair. The following weeks, she was nothing more than a constant headache. Endless calls and text messages telling me such beautiful things as that I will burn for my sins, that I was a disgrace, that I should stop fooling around and correct my life. She even lectured my parents, demanding that they correct me, to make me quit my job and find a husband, because that was the right thing to do and what I should be doing. Also, she took every chance she got to say how evil and selfish I was for ruining her good image. Last Saturday, she outdid herself. While I was in my apartment, there was a knock on the door, and when I opened it, I saw that it was her. By that point, I was no longer trying to hide my displeasure from her, and I just said, it's you. What do you want? Without being invited to come in, she slipped into my house, started looking around the place with an obvious look of disgust and disapproval on her face, and then turned to see me with that look of superiority, as if she were doing me a favor by being there. She told me that she had already given me more than enough time to reconsider and correct my life, so she was there so that I could apologize to her. I just laughed sarcastically and told her that she was crazy and that she could go now. She then started lecturing me with the same speech again, but I didn't take it. I interrupted her and let out all the things I've wanted to tell her for a long time. That she was a stupid old witch, that she was not an authority figure to anyone, that her presence alone ruins our day, that nobody can stand her, that she was such a horrible and suffocating grandmother and mother, that she should not make it strange that none of her children love her or visit her unless she forces them to. I knew I had hurt her by the way she tensed her face and how she tried to hold back her tears. It was then that she said, "Enough. I can see that you don't understand the good way, so I will have to correct you in the old way. Give me the keys to this place. You will return to your parents and you will be grounded until you learn to obey and do what I ordered." I still had the keys in my hand, to which she extends hers as if waiting for me to give them to her. I laughed. I laughed out loud. This was too ridiculous that I couldn't take it seriously. And apparently that made her so mad that she lunged at me, trying to grab my keys. We struggled. There were screams, things falling out of place. The damn witch got to the point of digging her nails into my arms and biting my hands. The scandal was such that a couple of neighbors went out to see what was going on. And when my grandmother saw them, she started shouting that I was a thief and was trying to rob her house. Obviously, they didn't believe her. They were my neighbors. They knew me. They separated her from me, and when she saw that they did not believe her and that I would not obey her, she threatened me with, "Your parents will know about this," and left. Since then, she had been telling everyone how I insulted her and violently attacked her. We all know her. We all know she's a liar. She just makes everyone's lives harder. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Slapped you at 29. What are you waiting for to go no contact? This relationship needs to end. In case you are depending on her financially, your freedom and well-being not worth her money. No contact. I don't depend on her in any way. Me, my mother, and all the family had tried no contact before, but just never worked. No contact works best when boundaries are enforced. No calls, texts, emails accepted. Trespass, non-contact, and protection orders, particularly as she has now physically attacked you twice, and then police called for every breach. A camera on the entranceway. You see her on the street, you walk the other way. Done. She will never agree with you. So there was no point explaining or trying to figure out how to play nice, because it's a twisted game of her creation, and you cannot win. Engaging in this conflict only fuels her fire, and to her, proves the point that you are not obedient and need to put firmly in your place. Press charges, get cameras, block her. I'm going to buy the cameras. I'd already blocked her number. Sadly, as she can't keep calling me, she is now calling my parents and other relatives. That, sweetheart, is not your problem. They can also block her. Thank you so much. I dealt with so much guilt and doubts about myself, and she only made everything worse in a moment when I believed I already knew who I am. Yeah, you need to call the cops and get ahead of this. She will get you charged and arrested to force you into what she wants. Call the cops and press charges. Get your neighbors to make statements. Don't leave this. Also, set up a doorbell camera. If you do nothing, then you are asking for more trouble. I'm going to buy the cameras. Knowing her, it's just a matter of time for her to show up here again. Do that, but really call the police. My husband is a senior officer and tells me all the time that people don't call until it's too late. You don't have to call and press charges, though you could. Call and ask to have a report made. That's it. Have a paper trail. Also, tell the wicked witch that Jesus don't like ugly and Grandma's hideous. Tell her the petty people of refit will meet her in hell. And now for the update. After the last post, I took some of the advice that people here told me. I went to the police and filed a report about what my grandmother did. I had some photos of the bites and nail marks and even asked one of my neighbors to come with me as a witness. But police didn't help. They said that any of that was enough proof to do something and suggested to talk and solve it. I knew police wouldn't help. But as some said here, I have now a paper trail. I bought cameras for my door. Not very expensive, but they record in a very decent quality. And they arrived just in the right moment, because 2 days later, my grandmother showed up again. This time, I didn't open the door, and that made her angry. She noticed I was home and kept knocking the door for 30 minutes. After that, she started hitting and kicking it, yelling at me to open, that as my grandmother I must obey. And of course, lots of curses. She left after the neighbors told her that they were calling the police, and I had everything recorded. That night, I sent a video to the family group chat, and this led to the next point. I went no contact with my grandmother. I decided I don't want her in my life anymore. After sending the video to the family, I told them that I was cutting all contact with her. It looked like it was something that everyone wanted to do, but they were waiting to someone to do it first, because half the family agreed to do the same after I told them, and almost all of us will on the following days. My grandmother noticed and tried to show up at everyone's houses, but we had enough. Except for one aunt, no one opened the door. I would like to say that everything ends here and we are all living our lives, but that was not my case. My grandmother showed up at my workplace, and she started one of the messiest dramas I've ever seen. She claimed that everything was my fault, that I made a family to stop talking to her, etc. She then ordered me to take her to the boss's office because she wanted me to quit my job and to start obeying her. I just asked her to leave the building and turn my back on her. That only made her even angrier because she tried to attack me again. Some of my coworkers were able to keep her away from me until security arrived. But in those few minutes, my grandmother threatened me, saying that I would regret ruining everything, and this was disturbing. To be very careful because she knows lots of people, and she knows where I live. And it would be too sad that someone breaks into your house during the night, and even worse if he did something to you. Or maybe it wouldn't be that bad if that corrects your perverted deviation. Again, I went to the police, with witnesses and videos of the security cameras, and again they didn't help. But at least now I have enough for a restraining order. How are your police so freaking useless? I feel like a lawyer would do a lot more than a police officer in this instance. I know, and I already have a lawyer for the restraining order. Just make sure you have security cameras around your home. Crazy doesn't rest easy. Wow, just wow. I've heard of nasty fights and arguments between family members, but actually saying she knows people who could do nasty things to you? That just blows my mind. This is getting beyond entitled. This is getting to the point of outright accomplice to an assault, whether it's physical, mental, or even worse. The fact that she stated she knows people could be interpreted as her saying she could put a hit out on you. If your local police won't do anything, try going to the county, state, or federal law enforcement agencies, assuming this is somewhere in the US, which if it isn't, please forgive my assumption. But if local won't do anything, then perhaps going above their heads will be the wake-up call they need to get up off their butts and do their jobs properly. Either way, definitely get that restraining/protection order put into place ASAP. Hope it all blows over soon, and that it was just her blowing hot air. Hope everything works out for the better in the end. Stay safe. I want to say, just tell her, well, Mrs. Last Name, you're dead to me as my grandmother, so just follow the same thing. We just share the same last name, nothing more. But she said she'd put a hit out on you, so that's out the window. Does your place of work have video of the area where that monster said this stuff? You may want to see if you can have a copy for your records for in case she does make good on her threat. Then, you can at least have copies of it everywhere with letters stating, if I'm a victim of crime, look into Grand Monster. She's probably behind it. I have the video of one of the security cameras, and a coworker filmed everything on his phone too. He already sent me the video. I shared it with my girlfriend, my parents, and brother, just in case I need it. Now for the last story. My brother-in-law disrespects my wife and my son, gets scared, and cries to his parents when I correct him. So, my brother-in-law to this day still lives with my in-laws. He's in his early 30s. From what my wife's told me, and have seen enough evidence to affirm her statements, they've spoiled him rotten his entire life. He's adopted, of the fair complexion as opposed to my wife and in-laws' melanin-rich tones, so she suspects some odd fantasizing on their part that I won't really get into, but could definitely see them participating in. He could burn water. He's that inept. Eats nothing but crap food. Is horrendously overweight. Doesn't have a job and actively refuses to get one unless you're doing all the legwork for him. Gets to go to Disney and Universal parks all day and throws a tantrum anytime he's asked to do any kind of chores, to name a few issues I have with him. He's also super creepy towards my kids, and given a history that's not really mine to explain, but you can guess, that's grounds enough for me to not want him within a mile of my family. He still demands the respect, because I'm an adult and your uncle, so you have to respect me. But I have to put up with him, because I try not to rock the boat as much as possible. My wife's relationship with her parents is rocky enough as it is. A real-life Cinderella story. We got married in mid-2015, and her parents invited themselves to our place on base housing to come see our new home. Of course, they bring entitled man-child with them. This man-child has already been stuffing his face with what little snack foods we've got in the house. Didn't ask to my recollection because we're family, and family share what they have with family visits. Or some such tripe my mother-in-law said. Not too long after, he starts berating and bullying my at the time 10-year-old son. A grown man, harassing a barely double-digit aged child by name calling. I'm still new to the step-parent / new husband role and don't want to overstep. So I let my wife start to handle this. She asks him to stop as it's upsetting our son. He does for a little bit, but goes right back at it a few minutes later. Once again, my wife asks him to knock it off, and that this behavior won't be tolerated in our home, and he starts having another of his ungodly tantrums. As soon as, well, mom says, comes out of his mouth, I put my foot down, both literally and figuratively. I do not tolerate any disrespect towards my wife. Strangers, kids, or family be damned. The new house is mostly wood flooring on the first floor, and my voice already carries pretty well, so the entire house goes silent when I spoke up. Is this her house? Is this yours? No? Then shut the heck up when people whose house you're in tell you to knock something off. Manchild is just standing there looking like some flabby fish out of water, with an open mouth gasp and wide-eyed terror that someone had dared to correct him. He then ran upstairs and cried to my in-laws about how he was aggressive and scary towards me, and I don't feel welcome in this home. Gee, I wonder why. My father-in-law pulled my wife aside and demanded something be done about my behavior, because that's no way for family to behave towards one another. She told me all this, and to this day, I still don't apologize for anything they seem as rude or unseemly, because that one instance of their 6-foot sack of turds behavior tells me they have no room to criticize anyone on parenting or general behavior. Another reason he may not like me would probably be because I embarrassed the heck out of him for acting like a Nimrod while we were on vacation. For context, we were staying at a hotel her parents had booked with their points, and I was on crutches at a time for a broken foot. This man-child had my, at the time, 8-year-old daughter up in the air spinning her around, standing immediately next to a pool. Obviously, I could not ambulate fast enough to intercede physically, so I had to call out from across the courtyard, "Man-child, put her down now!" which drew everyone in the vicinity's attention to his idiocy. I finally stick my happy butt over him, and he is looking all kinds of indignant. He asks how I dare interrupt his time with his niece, and I tell him, "Because you're putting her life in danger, you colossal moron. You were not even a foot from the side of the pool. What on God's green earth made you think that this was an okay idea?" "Well, I'm her uncle," was all he had to counter with. "And I am her father. And I say put her down." Now, he and I got into a hard staring match at this point, and he thinks he's gonna win because I'm on crutches, and is already naturally taller than me at around 6 foot. I, however, was a hard-charging lance corporal at a time, and didn't fear man, beast, or God, let alone this fat sack excuse of humanity. He broke off and stormed off to go tell his parents what happened. They try to have a conversation with me about how what I did was inappropriate, and I just balk at them and ask them how could they condone the blatant endangerment of their granddaughter by this buffoon. They had nothing else to say. Now for the top comments. Why are you and your wife still in contact with these people? Regrettable obligatory nonsense. I hope you both will see there is no obligation to keep in touch with anyone that disrespects all of you and endangers the kids. Kind of airing my dirty laundry here, but I got out of the military back in August of last year. Due to some unfortunate circumstances that are mine to withhold, we didn't have anywhere to go. So my wife and I are at our respective parents' houses. She with the children whom I miss dearly, until such a time as we are able to pool our funds and reunite as a family unit. We're close now. As of yesterday, my daughter still thanks me for stepping in on that pool incident. I'm surprised you didn't hit him in the face with your crutch. He would definitely, at some point, put your daughter in a dangerous situation and would be inept if anything did happen.